Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's training and overview of the NDC Partnership Knowledge Portal. Thank you so much for joining today. My name is Ryan O'Connor. I'm a knowledge tools analyst here at the NDC Partnerships Knowledge and Learning team and the lead on the knowledge portal. So today I'm excited to bring you an introduction and overview to the partnership's updated knowledge portal system, as well as to provide an overview of the knowledge portal modules, live demo on how to use the modules, as well as a open Q&A at the end to ask it and any questions you might have about our knowledge portal. So we're going to go over this with a few slides and then have an open opportunity for people to ask any questions that they might have. But if you have any questions while I'm presenting on a particular module or demo, you can feel free to put anything you might have in the Q&A or the chat at the bottom. So just a little bit of background before we get started. The NDC Partnership is a global coalition for collective action. It brings together developed and developing countries and institutions to deliver ambitious climate action and help advance sustainable development goals. The partnership has a broad and diverse membership of over 126 countries, 56 institutions, and 40 associate members, and it's built on the premise that the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. We work through three primary delivery mechanisms: country engagement, which is working with our member countries, development partners, and implementing partners to catalyze support for country requests and implement and enhance NDCs. Our knowledge and learning delivery mechanism, which is what we'll be focusing on today, is the facilitation and exchange of best practices and lessons learned, as well as supporting countries in accessing finance for implementing NDC priorities. So knowledge and learning is where the knowledge portal is situated. The knowledge and learning mechanism, our activities facilitate the exchange of relevant trends, lessons learned, and other resources to support implementing NDCs through increasing countries' access to knowledge, as well as deploying technical and financial support to better align countries' needs and priorities. And one of the key activities in the knowledge and learning delivery mechanism is the sharing of resources. So the NDC partnership amplifies access to tools, resources, and guidance produced by its membership and other leading organizations to support the implementing of NDCs. And one of the key mechanisms for this is our knowledge portal. So today we're going to be going over what exactly is the knowledge portal. The knowledge portal is the NDC partnership's primary tool for publicly sharing good practices, tools, funding opportunities, and other resources related to NDC implementation, enhancement, and sustainable development. We regularly update our knowledge portal with support of our partners to include new resources. And an important part about the knowledge portal is that it's publicly accessible on the NDC partnership website. You can access it directly by going to our website and clicking the knowledge portal tab, or through the link on your screen here. Now, what makes up the knowledge portal? The knowledge portal is primarily comprised of 4 different modules. These are databases which we manage and add new resources for on different topics. The Good Practice Database, the Climate Toolbox, Climate Funds Explorer, and the Climate Finance Bulletin. And then we also have an NDC Content module, which provides information about trends and topics on the NDCs themselves. So now I'm going to go into an overview of the 4 modules, introducing each of them, how to access and navigate these modules, and get relevant resources from them. So we're going to start with the Good Practice Database. The Good Practice Database, or GPD, serves as a central hub for case studies on learning and leadership in climate action. It's an easily searchable repository of good practice examples of climate action being effectively designed and implemented. And it also showcases cases where countries have overcome obstacles to implementation. The GPD is a joint database, which is managed by the Partnership on Transparency in the Paris Agreement, the UNDP NDC Support Program, the Global Climate Action Program, and the NDC Partnership Support Union. Now, in terms of key characteristics, what makes the GPD different from the other modules? For one, it is our only joint database, so it's operated by multiple partners, and you can find the module on multiple different websites in addition to the NDC Partnerships Knowledge Portal. The primary focus of the GPD, as I mentioned previously, is case studies and best practices, and it also has a strong geographic focus. It includes filters for countries, regions, as well as country groupings such as least developed countries or small island development states. And the general focus of the resources in this database are going to be on best practice implementation in different countries and different regions. Additionally, the detail pages support uploaded documents directly to the database, which we'll see in a moment. So now I'm going to move over to a brief live demonstration of the GPD on our knowledge portal, including how to navigate the module, how to use our search and filter functionality, as well as a quick overview of what the detail pages look like. So I'm going to switch over from the slides to our knowledge portal on our website. Before we jump into the good practice database, this is just what the knowledge portal looks like. You can access it from our website by clicking the knowledge portal tab, as well as the different modules directly on that tab below. You can see a brief overview of each of our 4 primary modules, as well as featured resources on the homepage, including the latest resources that have been added on each of the different modules, as well as a link to our NDC Explore tab. So moving on to the good practice database, the good practice database can be accessed directly here through the knowledge portal. We have a brief overview of what a good practice database is, as well as more information available through links. And you can see the content which is supported by our joint partners as well as available on their website. So the database itself, you can see it contains over 300 different resources and good practice examples. And we support the navigation of these resources in the database through a search and filter functionality, which is accessible on this sidebar. So there are different filter categories which you can access to find different resources that may or may not be more relevant to you. For example, climate objective, you can filter by resources relevant to adaptation, mitigation, or cross-cutting objectives. Different planning and implementation activities, such as developing strategies, collecting data, or analyzing different topics, developing and implementing policies, stakeholder engagement, etc. We also filter by sectors and themes. So if you're looking for resources in a particular sector, and the aforementioned geographic focuses as well as language. So you can filter by different regions, you can filter by country groupings, and you can filter simply by countries themselves. So for an example of how this works, let's say for example, I am looking for a resource related to Thailand. So I can scroll all the way down in countries here to Thailand and just check this box here. And that will already limit the results to 9 for the 9 resources that are relevant to Thailand. And I can even go further and say, I also want resources in the transport sector. I can check this box. And now we're filtering throughout the entire good practice database for resources that are only related to both Thailand and the transport sector. And you can see there are 4 here. The sectors and themes are listed below the case study titles, and the countries their flags are shown here. And at the top, you can see a very relevant resource, Bangkok e-bus program, primarily related to both Thailand and transport. And this can also be combined with a simple keyword search with the search and filter bar here. And if you want to clear your selection and start over, you can simply select the clear selection button, which will remove all the filters that you have selected and allow you to search and filter by different parameters. So let's take a closer look at the Bangkok e-bus program resource to see what a detail page actually looks like in the good practice database. So this is what it looks like when you click on a resource in the good practice database. You can see in this case, a summary of the case study, so a short description of what the information contains, as well as some of the information and tags that you saw on the homepage for the good practice database. So the relevant country or countries, the region that it pertains to, the primary climate objective, planning and implementation activities, sectors, as well as other information such as the barriers that were overcome in this case study, the source of the case study, who produced it, as well as the language or languages that it's available in. And then in this case, you can see it's an external case study, meaning it links to a website rather than a PDF upload. you can just simply click on this link here to go directly to the source material and access the case study for yourself and read it. So a relatively simple UI, which just lets you access the information directly, provides you the relevant description of what the case study is, as well as how it interfaces with the other tags on the Good Practice database and how you can actually access it. So that's an overview of the Good Practice database. And now we're going to move on to our second module, the Climate Toolbox. The Climate Toolbox is a curated, searchable database of tools and resources designed to support NDC planning and implementation. It includes various resources such as guidances, frameworks, templates, analysis tools, other knowledge platforms, and sources of technical support. And these are cataloged on a wide range of sectors and themes and activity types. Now, contrary to the Good Practice database, which is a source of best case studies and best practices, the toolbox is primarily designed to aid government officials and other implementing partners to directly support NDC planning and implementation activities. Moving on to the characteristics of the Climate Toolbox, this is actually our largest module on the knowledge portal. You saw that the Good GPD had around 350 resources. The toolbox actually has over 1,000 resources and is constantly growing, so it is quite large. It includes a focus on tools, platforms, and sources of technical support, as I mentioned. And these resources are organized around the stages of NDC planning and implementation, starting all the way at the beginning with understanding the basics of NDCs and moving down to evaluating, monitoring, and reporting impacts of your activities. And then finally, the toolbox has a data download feature, which enables a tailored analysis of all the data that is in the module. So now, just like with the Good Practice database, we're going to move on to a brief live demo of what the toolbox looks like when you're actually on the website itself, and how to navigate the module, search and filter functionality, detail pages, as well as a brief introduction to what the data download feature looks like. So you can access the Climate Toolbox directly from the Knowledge Portal tab, just like with the other modules on the Knowledge Portal. And you can already see that it looks somewhat familiar to what we just looked at for the Good Practice database. It has a brief description of what the toolbox is and how it's organized, as well as the actual results of the database itself. You can see there's over 1,000 resources in this database, and you might already be familiar from the Good Practice database with the search and filter functionality that is available on the sidebar here. Now, you'll notice that the filters are slightly different than what you see on the Good Practice database, and that's because we have different filters that are more relevant to the resources in the Climate Toolbox, and the other modules that you'll see are slightly different. So, for example, the planning and implementation activities for NDC planning and implementation are listed here as filters which you can use to better access specific resources. So, like I said, starting with understanding the basics of NDCs, all the way down to evaluating, monitoring, reporting impacts. And you can use any of these filters along the other filters in on the module to best access or best filter through the 1,000+ resources we have in this database and find resources relevant to your needs. So this includes other things like region, country grouping, the sectors and themes region or filter, as well as things like scale. So if you're looking for national oriented resources, subnational project level resources. And then we also have filters such as for the resource type. Like I said, there are different types of resources we include in the Climate Toolbox, such as guidances and frameworks, templates, analysis tools, platforms, technical support. If you're looking for a specific resource type, you can do that here, as well as the primary expertise level that the resource is aimed for. So whether it's aimed for a general audience, practitioners such as country officials or implementing partners, or specialists like climate scientists or other specialist parties. So as an example, we can use the search and filter functionality to find more like resources relevant to us. So we can, if we were looking for something related to agriculture, we can filter by the agriculture thing here under sectors and themes. And you can see that that's already going to limit our resources, just like with the Good Practice database, down to just over 100 resources rather than over 1,000. Additionally, let's say we're looking for guidances and frameworks in agriculture. We can do that as well, which limits it even further. We can combine this with the search and filter functionality. Let's say that we're looking for a guidance that is related to agriculture, but is also related to the most recent COP. So I can put in COP28 and add that search to the existing filters that we have for the search and filter, and that limits us down to one resource. You can see you can drill down very deep if you want to when you're searching and filtering in the Knowledge Portal modules, and you can see this is a toolkit related to COP28 agriculture and food. So if we take a closer look at this resource, we can see what it looks like to see an individual entry on the Climate Toolbox. Now, this is going to be somewhat similar to what you saw in the Good Practice database. You can see a description right here of what the toolkit is, as well as the partners that developed the resource. And you're going to find similar information on the sidebar here, including sectors and themes, the scale or expertise level the resource is designed for, what type of resource it is, the language, and other relevance tags that might be included for this specific resource. Additionally, the Climate Toolbox has an added functionality of automatically directing users to more resources which might be relevant to this particular resource. So you can see this toolkit has 7 similar tools which have been identified in the toolbox. You can click on any one of them to be taken directly to their entry page and learn more about them, as well as access them directly. And you can see more tools by the developer are available. In this case, there's a large number of tools because there were a handful of developers which contributed to this resource, but you can scroll through this list and access resources directly as a way to find similar resources on a particular topic. So finally, for the Climate Toolbox, in addition to the database itself, as well as the entry pages, the Toolbox has an added data download feature. You can access this directly from the Climate Toolbox homepage, and simply by just clicking on the Download All Data button on the right-hand side of the page. This will download an Excel file to your computer, which you can access directly to get more information on the data that we have in this module and do your own custom analysis. I'm going to very quickly show you what this looks like. So once you download the file to your computer and open it up in your Excel, you can see all of the information that we have displayed in the Climate Toolbox itself, displayed in an Excel table format. So all of the types of information, the categories are available here in the columns, and then the rows will contain all of the individual entries, all 1,000+ of them, for your own tailored analysis. So this is a great way to dig deeper into the data if you are looking to analyze data on a specific topic or project and want to conduct an analysis that is different than what we have available directly in the toolbox itself. So that's an overview of the Climate Toolbox. We're now going to move on to the third module in the Knowledge Portal. This is the Climate Funds Explorer. So the Funds Explorer, or CFE, is a searchable database of international public climate financing options, which is designed to help increase transparency and access to finance. It brings together information on sources of finance support and presents it in a standardized and user-friendly way to help country practitioners and other stakeholders identify and understand and access relevant finance opportunities. It aggregates information on the main international sources of public climate finance, including finance from international climate funds and multilateral development banks, as well as bilateral governments. Key characteristics of the CFE. This is our primary finance module on the Knowledge Portal, with, like I said, the goal of presenting standardized information on funding opportunities and helping overcoming that challenge to accessing funds. It focuses on including international sources of public climate finance. So those are the main types of resources you're going to find in this database. It also has some of our more extensive detail pages, including custom steps on how to access funds, which you might not find in other resources. Additionally, the Funds Explorer has a special compare feature, which is unique to the database. And this allows us to highlight similarities and differences across 2 or 3 different funds. And we're going to get into what that looks like in just a second. So now, like we've done with the other modules, we're going to do a quick demo of what the Funds Explorer looks like, how to navigate the module, what the search and filter looks like, as well as the detail pages and the compare feature, which I just mentioned. So here is our Climate Funds Explorer homepage. Just like the other modules, you can access it through our Knowledge Portal tab or our Knowledge Portal homepage. And just like the other modules, it has a brief description of what the Funds Explorer is, as well as a description of, for example, this content is supported by the World Resources Institute. As you can see, this is a slightly smaller database. It includes just over 100 resources total, but you're going to see in a moment that these resources are quite descriptive and extensive compared to some of the more overview descriptions that we got in the Good Practice database or the Climate Toolbox. We have the same search and filter functionality that you should be familiar with from the other two modules, but this is designed for a more funding of like finance-oriented approach to better suit the needs of this particular database. For example, we can filter by where is the funding needed, including the type of recipient, so where the funding would be going to, as well as geographic filters such as the region or the country. Additionally, we have filters for the purpose of the support, including finance-related filters, such as if it's for project and program implementation, preparing proposals, projects and pipelines, et cetera, as well as other filters such as for sectors and themes or the climate objective of the project. And then finally, we have a couple other relevant filters such as the type of the funding, whether it contains grants, loans, other types of funding mechanisms, the type of the support provider, so whether it's coming from bilateral, multilateral, or philanthropic sources, and of course, whether this funding has any sort of co-financing requirement. And you can see the information here is displayed directly on the results page, and we can narrow that information just by using the search and filter functionality. So let's just do a quick search for the adaptation fund, because that's what we're looking for. So that narrows us down to a handful of different results, and we can also combine this like we've done with the other modules with the filters. So obviously, the adaptation fund might have a climate objective of adaptation, which narrows it a bit further, and you can see the resource that I'm looking for is right here. So if we drill a little further into this by looking at the adaptation fund page, you'll see some similarities with the detail pages of the other modules. So we've got a description of what the adaptation fund is, as well as some of the key characteristics of the fund on the left. So the primary climate objective, the sectors and themes that their projects cover, the type of support provider that they are, as well as the recipients that they support, the size of the fund, whether they have co-financing requirements, adaptation timeframe, the administrator, contact information, relevant countries that they support. As you can see, this is already a pretty extensive amount of information, but it goes even further by providing a handful of different information in various categories, including the support providers, purpose of support, the type of funding, monitoring and reporting procedures, the way the fund is organized, eligibility criteria, and eligible countries. And these are organized in drop-down menus because of how much information can sort of be displayed. So you can navigate by these different categories and find the information that may be relevant for you to access and get information about the fund. In addition, I mentioned that these resources on the Funds Explorer have custom steps on how to access the financing, and that is included at the bottom of the page. So you can see here, we have additional information on how to understand steps to access national readiness support, becoming an accredited entity. And these categories you'll see here, this added information is going to be developed specially based on the fund. So depending on what the fund requires, you'll have different information here. For example, the small grant innovation support might be something that is more specific to the adaptation fund than other resources than other funds that are available on the Funds Explorer. And you can simply click down to get a description of all the information that you'll need to understand steps to access or the other categories that you might find here in this section. So that is a go-to place to get custom information on accessing and understanding the fund, in addition to the more descriptive information in the top of the entry page. So finally, I want to quickly highlight what the compare feature looks like for the Funds Explorer. You can see in the search results, there's a little compare button below each of the individual entries. We can click on this to compare 2 to 3 different funds and get information about them in a comparative table. So I can just simply click these compare buttons and then click compare in the little blue box that pops up to bring up this compare screen here. So in this example, I am comparing the Adaptation Fund to 2 different funds, the Least Developed Countries Fund and the Special Climate Change Fund. And this will show you a short table which allows you to more easily compare some of the similarities and differences between these funds. So you can see we have information on the eligible countries, so a short description on countries which are eligible to apply for these funds, as well as the type of support provider that the funds are, their primary climate objective, purpose of support, relevant sectors and themes that they cover, co-financing requirements, and the funding types that they offer. And as you can see, these are similar types of information which you can actually filter on in the Funds Explorer search and filter section. But this information is readily accessible to compare the different funds to see what might be similar and what might be different. Additionally, we have a Show Differences button, which allows you to filter only for the information in this table that is actually different. So before I click the button, you can see, for example, the type of support provider is all multilateral. So this is all the same. If that's not useful to you, you can simply click the Show Differences button, and that'll automatically update the table to only show the categories of information where there are differences. So you can see now that I've clicked that button, the type of support provider button or category is no longer there. It now just shows 3 different categories which contain different information, that being eligible countries, climate objective, and sectors and themes. So this is a good way to easily organize the information on these funds and understand how they might be similar, how they might be different, and more easily get a picture of what they look like. So that is the Climate Funds Explorer. And then moving on to our 4th and final module of the Knowledge Portal, we're going to talk a little bit about the Climate Finance Bulletin. So the Climate Finance Bulletin, or CFB, is a searchable repository of opened, time-bound climate funding opportunities. These are typically calls for proposals, and they're for countries or other implementing partners. It serves as a platform for connecting countries and institutions seeking funding opportunities with institutional, development, and philanthropic partners who have posted or will post open calls for proposals for climate funding opportunities. This is a dynamic module which highlights only active or upcoming calls with the goal of connecting short-term funding opportunities with partners before the call closes. So what are the key characteristics of the CFB? This is actually our latest module on the Knowledge Portal. It was launched last year in fall of 2023, and it includes active or upcoming calls for proposals of up to $1 million US. This is slightly different from our primary finance module, the Climate Funds Explorer, which includes large public financing opportunities and climate funds, whereas the Finance Bulletin includes these smaller, short-term, time-bound opportunities for individual projects. As I mentioned previously, this is our most dynamic module as calls are regularly updated and opportunities close or become available. So this means that we only include active or upcoming calls, and closed calls are taken off of the module. So you only have access to resources which are relevant to you for submitting applications for these calls. This is in contrast to the other 3 modules, which constantly build on an expanding list of resources. This focuses only on active calls for proposals and financing opportunities that are actively available. And then finally, the CFB has a custom web form, which allows partners to directly submit funding opportunities for inclusion on the module itself. So just like the other 3 modules, we're going to do a brief live demonstration of what the Finance Bulletin looks like, how the module is laid out, how to access the search and filters, as well as the detail pages themselves, and then lastly, a brief overview of what this web form submission feature looks like. So going back to our page, you can see this is the Climate Finance Bulletin homepage. Just like the other modules, it's accessible directly via the Knowledge Portal tab here, and includes a brief description of what the CFB is and how to navigate the information. You can see that the bulletin right off the bat has fewer resources than the other 3 modules. It only has 9 resources available at the current moment. And this is for 2 reasons. One is because it is our newest module, so we're still gathering resources for it. But more importantly, it only includes active or upcoming calls for proposals. So we have included significantly more than 9 calls for proposals on the bulletin, but as they close and no longer become relevant, they're actually taken down from the module, as I mentioned previously. And so that's why you might see fewer calls for proposals as compared to what's in the Climate Finance or Climate Funds Explorer, or even more so in the Climate Toolbox. Just like with the other modules, you can navigate this more quickly by accessing our search and filter feature on the sidebar. So filtering by climate objective, as well as funding or finance related filters, including the funding type, the amount, the type of support provider, as well as things like co-financing or consortium requirements, in addition to filters you might be used to seeing at this point. And the results directly display information that might be relevant to the call, including the type of support provider, the date that it closes. So this date is when it would actually be taken off the Climate Finance Bulletin, when it's made no longer available for applications, as well as the amount. So you can see that these are smaller, tend to be smaller funding opportunities compared to the Funds Explorer, because they're these sort of smaller short-term opportunities. So this one's for 250,000 euros, this one's for 500,000 euros, et cetera. If we look at an individual resource, so let's take a look at this Ocean Community Grants, the most recent resource added to the module, we can see a little more information about the call. So just like the other modules, it includes a summary of the resource, in this case, the call for proposals, as well as information about the eligibility criteria for applications and a link to the application itself. Additionally, you have relevant information on the sidebar, just like the entry pages on the other modules, including the name of the entity who has submitted the call, the type of support provider that they are, the close date, which you actually saw on the results page for the bulletin, as well as other information such as climate objective, who is eligible to submit a proposal. So you see in this case, it's actually non-state actors, as well as whether there's co-financing requirements or consortium requirements, the funding amount itself, and the sectors and themes that the call is covering. So that's an overview of what it looks like to access an individual entry page on the Climate Finance Bulletin. And then finally, I'm going to briefly show you what it looks like to submit a funding opportunity via the CFB web form. So you can see here, there is an added button, this blue button on the left that says submit a funding opportunity, which will take you to our web form. So this is the web form for the Climate Finance Bulletin. This allows any partners who have calls for proposals that they wish to display on the module to directly submit it for inclusion on our bulletin by simply filling the web form out with the relevant information. So you can see here, there is a handful of different types of information, including the name, funding entity, relevant different types of resources, which or information types, which you should be familiar with from going over the module itself, the type of support provider, and simply put, implementing partners can fill out this form and have this resource, or this call for proposals, be directly added to the Climate Finance Bulletin. So this is a simple and straightforward way to have the information for an upcoming or active call be added directly to the module for users to access more quickly. So that is the Climate Finance Bulletin. And then finally, in addition to our 4 primary modules, which we have on the Knowledge Portal, we also have an Explore NDC Content module. So the partnership hosts an Explore NDC Content module, which pulls data directly from ClimateWatch, the ClimateWatch data platform. The module itself consists of a global map with a diverse set of indicators, which are designed to analyze the content of NDCs as well as summary pages, which include details on individual country commitments and historical emissions. So very briefly, you can access this on our Knowledge Portal tab, and you simply navigate the NDC content module directly via the data that is pulled from Climate Watch. I'm not going to go into as much detail in exploring this module as I did with the other modules, but I would encourage you, if you are interested in understanding what all the indicators mean and how you can best navigate it, to attend one of the Climate Watch trainings that is hosted by the Climate Watch team in the World Resources Institute for more information. They host these trainings regularly, and the information that you would gain from those is directly transferable to the NDC content module, which we host on our Knowledge Portal. So now that we've gone over what the Knowledge Portal is, as well as provided an introduction to each of the Knowledge Portal modules, I want to close by just giving you a little more information about how you can engage with the Knowledge Portal on a day-to-day basis. The first is simply attending regular trainings. The partnership will be hosting regular trainings throughout 2024, which any colleagues and interested partners can attend to learn more about the Knowledge Portal and its offerings. We'll be hosting additional trainings such as this one throughout the year, which you can simply sign up to attend in the way that you did here. So this is a great opportunity to get introduced to the Knowledge Portal and learn more about it. Second is requesting custom trainings. Colleagues can reach out to our team to request custom trainings on the Knowledge Portal. This is an opportunity to explore how the portal can best serve specific institutional needs. So in addition to regular public trainings, which we host, such as this one, you can reach out to our team if you or your organization has specific questions about the portal or has a specific need that they have, which the Knowledge Portal might be able to support, to get more bespoke information about the Knowledge Portal as it relates to your organization. We're happy to do these types of trainings, these custom trainings for your organization at any time. So please reach out directly if you might be interested in something like this. Additionally, a great way to engage with the Knowledge Portal is simply submitting resources and calls for proposals for inclusion on the portal itself. Sending us your latest resources, including case studies, guidances and frameworks, tools, sources of technical support, funding opportunities, and calls for proposals is a great way to engage with the Knowledge Portal and its offerings. We'll review and include these, we'll review these resources for inclusion directly, and for calls for proposals specifically, you can submit these using the CFB online web form to best have your call reflected on the bulletin, which we just covered. And then finally, using the Knowledge Portal to find other resources and NDC content. The Knowledge Portal's data and modules, using in the Knowledge Portal's data and modules to best fit your specific needs, finding relevant resources and funding opportunities, and of course, running custom analyses using the data download feature and more. So these are 4 simple ways which you can engage with the Knowledge Portal throughout your daily work. That concludes our organized portion of this training. Thank you so much for attending and for your attention. And I appreciate your interest in learning about the Knowledge Portal. So with that concluded, we're actually going to move into an open Q&A period. So any questions which you might have had about the presentation or about the Knowledge Portal itself, feel free to raise you'd raise your hand and just come in, or if there are any questions that have been added to the chat or the Q&A, we can cover those. So I'm not seeing any hands. Or any questions in the chat. We've got one question in the Q&A. Okay, so we've got one question from Maria asking if the curation of our database is done manually or if we're using any AI support. That's a great question. So currently, all of the Knowledge Portal data is curated manually. We work with our members as well as other partners to source new resources directly. As I mentioned in the previous slide about about submitting resources directly to us, you can submit a new resource over email to us. For example, you can submit it over email to myself, and we'll review those resources manually for inclusion on one of the 4 modules, whichever module might best fit. We are currently exploring potential uses of AI to better source content, but that's something that we're working preliminarily on and have not implemented in the Knowledge Portal currently. But that's a great question, and I appreciate you asking that. I see we've got a couple messages in the chat. Thank you all for coming in. Let's see. We've got a question from Gina. Who should we contact in the future if we have questions? Thank you, Gina, for asking that. And thank you for reminding me to plug myself for any questions. So I am actually the lead on the Knowledge Portal. So I manage it and I'm supporting its development. You can contact me directly. I believe I had my email listed on a previous slide. But yes, if you have any questions about the Knowledge Portal, you can reach out to my email directly, ryan.o'connor@ndcpartnership.org. And this is also, you can reach out to me directly if you have resources which you would like to submit to the Knowledge Portal. So for example, if your organization is working on a new tool and you want that included on the Knowledge Portal in the Climate Toolbox, you can simply send that to me directly over email and I'll review it for addition to our Knowledge Portal. So thank you so much for flagging that. Any questions, you can reach out to me directly. And then the slides, yes, the slides and the meeting is recorded, so those can both be made available. Thank you for asking. And so we've got a question on submitting requests for custom trainings. Yes, this is a great question. In addition to submitting resources directly through over email to me, if you have a question about a custom training, you can reach out to me directly, and I can support organizing that as well as connecting you with potentially colleagues who might have additional information. So, for example, we have finance colleagues who work with us on our team on the Funds Explorer and the Finance Bulletin. I can, if you reach out to me for a custom training, I can organize that, and I can also connect you with additional members of our team who might have relevant information for your needs. So in short answer to your question is yes, if you're interested in a custom training on the Knowledge Portal, please just reach out to me over email on the email that's listed on the screen, and we can go forward from there and in setting that up. So thank you very much for asking about that. All right, and I don't think I'm seeing much more. So the reports or summary facts for downzoned. I'm not sure about that, Anwar. Perhaps we can connect directly. For download, yes. Yes, as I mentioned for the toolbox, we have the data download feature which you can access directly. In terms of reports or summary facts, I'm not sure if that information is available for the toolbox specifically, but we do have the data download feature which you can download information directly. All right, I'm not seeing any more questions in the chat, so I'm going to assume that everything was perfectly clear and that there are no additional questions. So thank you so much for joining this training. I appreciate your attendance and interest in the Knowledge Portal. And as I mentioned before, please do not hesitate to reach out to me over email if you have any additional questions or if you're interested in a custom training, or of course, if you have resources which you would like to see included on our knowledge portal. So please, please do not hesitate to reach out to my email, which you can see on screen here. Thank you so much for attending, and we will conclude a few minutes early. So have a wonderful rest of your day, everybody.